through you, Mr. Mayor, the report number 1 is really a context-setting report to recap on the process that has been followed over the last 4.5 years to develop the proposed unitary plan, and that covers all of the issues around the draft unitary plan and the process that we followed to take it to a notified version. It also sets, as a reminder, the statutory framework that we have been working under. And as you are aware, the unitary plan is following a special process that was legislated by central government. It is different from the Standard Resource Management Act process, and the report number 1 really just gives you a recap of that process and reminds everybody about the decision-making role and function the governing body has in this process as it draws to the end. So happy to answer any questions, but as I've said, it is really just a recap of many of the issues that have been discussed in the past.
Move right. Moved. Seconded, please. Councillor Penny H. Any discussion, questions or comments? God, that was easy. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against, passed. Right, move on to item 11. Proposed Auckland Plan, a report to response to the recommendations of the Auckland Unitary Plan Independent Hearings Panel on the provision of the plan. And then I have something here. Okay. Right. How are we going to do this? All right. Where is he? Councillor Quacks. We've got a Councillor Quacks and Councillor Crum proposal here. It is, in many ways, it's a procedural motion that they are asking for us to consider. I'm going to read this out, and then I think that I think we need to deal with it post haste, because there are parts of it that, on the face of it, look to be in direct conflict, but it's not my proposal. So we have got a proposal that the independent panel be thanked for its work, and that all recommendations from the panel are accepted by the governing body in full. Agree that the minor editorial changes to the plan that may be required is delegated to the Mayor and Deputy. And agree that councillors be invited to record dissenting votes against the topics. Should dissenting votes on any number, on topic number 10 or more, that item will be taken out for full... is it 8? Right. I see, so we've got a change on the go. That item be taken out for full debate. So, Councillor, it's moved and seconded, so it is there and on the floor, and I think we need to deal with it now. The only question I have here is, if you agree with A and B, what is the point of C? So, Councillor Quacks, yep. Away you go. And councillors, I'm going to make this a 3 up and 3 down.
Procedural question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just what is the status of the motion that you moved and it was on the screen, thinking prior to this, to the Judge Kirkpatrick and others?
That was not a motion. That was a general comment. All right. So, Councillor Quacks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the reason that I have brought this to the table is simply because the unitary plan, the independent hearings panel has been, I think, ably led, as you've pointed out. It's been a very, very fine panel, worked very hard over a long period of time, working on a plan that a proposed plan, that we presented to them. The panel have had the evidence put before them, of pieces of information, digested thousands of submissions. They have asked experts to caucus on a number of issues. In other words, their job has been very, very thorough. After listening to the evidence that they have heard and considering that evidence, they have brought us a plan which I believe that all of us are reasonably happy with. No one's going to be completely happy with everything that's in. I know that Councillor Casey, she's got some issues, Councillor Crum has got some issues, Councillor Watson will have issues, and so we're all here, we're all going to have to compromise to some extent. We're all going to have to, in political parlance, swallow some dead rats. But the plan that has been presented to us is a very good plan and has been considered after hearing much evidence. So that's why I've put this forward, that we don't need to spend time now perhaps unpicking it. And that's to some extent what it looks like, that we're looking to unpick a plan which has been carefully thought through, which has been worked at. And so, and as you've reminded us, Mr. Mayor, that this is never going to be the final plan. There will be iterations of this, there will be changes made along the way. And so this is a plan that will work for us. I'm sure that this process will be being watched very carefully from Wellington, who have asked us to get on, the government have asked us to get on and put together a plan that works. I believe that we have the plan that will work. And if we unpick this, I think we're actually, I hate to say this, but perhaps doing a disservice to the very hard work that the panel have done over the last couple of years. So, Mr. Mayor, that's my reason. I think that there will be some small technical things that can be corrected at a later date. But in the meantime, I think there is no need for us to sit in judgment of this plan. The changes that are being, or the rejections that are being put forward, unfortunately, we will not hear the evidence that the planners or the panel have heard. And I think that is important. We are making a decision based on a lot less evidence, or no evidence in some cases, than what the panel have heard. And that is why I think we should leave this plan as it is, despite the fact that some of us will be having to compromise. Some of us will have to, as I said before, swallow some dead rats. But that's the nature of the business that we're in. I think I said to you, Mr. Mayor, when the plan first came out on the when it was made available to us on the 29th of July, you sat there and said, well, we're going to all have to swallow some dead rats. And that's quite clear. But it is a plan that not everyone will agree with, but it is a very fine plan. And interestingly enough, right across the central government, all parties seem to agree that the plan that's been brought to us, it seems to have widespread support of the political parties down in Wellington. I think it has fairly wide support of the people of Auckland. They're going to be like us, they're going to be divided on some issues, but nevertheless, we're here to make decisions. We need to get on with the business. We need to get this plan operative as quickly as we can and move on and do the things that Auckland want us to do, and that's move on and get the business done, as my colleague, Councillor Penrose, so often reminds us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crump, second it.
I think that this is, Mr Mayor, a very simple and a clear way forward. It's not going to necessarily be easy, but I don't think anything we would undertake today is going to be easy. To reiterate what Councillor Quacks has just said, it is the independent panel that have heard submissions, not us. We should take that very much into account when looking at point A on the screen. Whichever way you look at it today, whether this passes or not, if we want to accept or reject anything, we need a majority of us to do so. So what C does is somehow give a trigger for us to take some topics for full debate. And there'll be some topics that we each feel strongly about. And if your case is somewhat persuasive, then you shouldn't have a hard time getting to 8 of your colleagues to trigger a full debate and decision making on your particular topic. So I would suggest that functionally we might adjourn and list with Democracy Services topics that we might cast or would cast a dissenting vote against, and that Democracy Services could figure out whether there's 8 or more on that particular topic. So we might have to take a while to do that, but it would be something that we're all gathering anyway. We'd all know right now the topics that we feel strongly about, but we might find that those topics are reduced to a small minimal number. So I think in summary, Mr Mayor, we do need simplicity and clarity, and we need a way through. It is our turn now. The independent panel have come back, given us their recommendations, and rather than that in-between layer of staff recommending what they've recommended, it is our turn now, and that's what this does.
Right, anyone else speaking against? Yeah, no, sorry, speaking for. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for? Right, then I'll take 3 who will speak against. Councillor Pennyhouse.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I agree with Councillor Crum. This is our time now. And with this being our time is now where we bring this back into the democratic process. I'm wondering if I was sort of inhabiting a parallel universe over the last few months as I've been lectured consistently about the need for democratic process to reign. Where is the voice of the community? When will we have our say? How on earth will we deal with this? This is actually now time where we actually grasp the nettle and do that hard work. But process and logic do need to be applied. We can't have some sort of random process where we all, rush to Democracy Services and tell them the bits we don't like. It has to be based against some sort of framework, and that's exactly what this report is. It points out clearly which are the bits that the panel has got wrong, and the panel has got some. For those of us who have read the whole report, the panel has made some quite cataclysmic errors. They weren't expert planners. Our crack planners have sorted out some things in here that simply make the plan workable. I'm not prepared to accept a plan. As Councillor Quacks put it, Wellington has said, please deliver us a plan that's workable. How about we do that then? Secondly, of course, this is our chance to apply the ruler over this, measure it back as our staff have done with the Auckland plan, and then make, with due regard to the law and to advice, the changes that may be required. That's actually our job. Now, it may be daunting. This is a very big plan. It's a very long plan that contains many words. I don't think we should be daunted by that and leap straight to a quick and easy out. Let's just do this now. And yes, Wellington might agree with this. To be absolutely honest, We've worked respectively and in good partnership with Wellington. But this is Auckland's plan. This isn't Wellington's plan. For goodness sake, this has to work for Auckland. This is the job that we're employed to do. And for those of us who have got up early in the morning and stayed up late at night reading this whole damn thing, we're well equipped to do that and are keen to get on with it. Finally, Mr Mayor, you know, there is a point at which people need to realise we don't just come to council to eat our lunch and be popular. We actually come to council to do the hard yards. And for those who have stuck with the hard yards and who've worked with staff on this, this is time to engage and do that. So no, I will not be supporting this. In fact, I'm very tempted to echo Councillor Casey's, and I will make my no heartfelt and loud, and I will be voting most strongly against this. I think we're derelict in our duty by stepping aside from giving this due consideration. I think we're derelict in our duty for not respectfully trying to get the best plan that we can for Auckland. And I think we're derelict in our duty for not having regard to the law which requires us to do this. And finally, Mr Mayor, I think this is not something where we need to kowtow to the masters that some people might have in Wellington, or kowtow to, or be seen that this is somehow disrespectful to the panel. They expect us to do this work. This is what they gave it to us to do, and we will interrogate it quite rightfully and come up with a plan for Auckland. Thank you.